Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good afternoon. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafi anbiya mursalin wa ala alihi ajma'in. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. My name is Sharifuddin Masharani, and I would like to acknowledge and to say thank you to the organizer, the International Seminar on Islamic Studies 2023, CPIS 2023, for inviting me to give a lecture on food from Quran and scientific perspective. Before we go on the presentation today, I would like to give a snapshot of what we are going to have for this afternoon. Number one, as introduction, basically on foods from the Quran point of view and also from the scientific of view, and also one of the most important directives in food, which is the halal and haram of food in Islam, according from the Quran and also from the scientific point of view, and also food that has been mentioned in Quran and some of its benefits, and at the end is the conclusion. Dear panelists and ladies and gentlemen, I would like to start with this surah, Surah Abasa. In this surah, it is clearly stated that Allah Subhanahu wa Taala created food for the human being benefit. As start as at the ayah on the 24th ayah, what it says is that let people then consider their food. We poured water, pouring it in great abundance, and meticulously spilled the earth open for sprouts, causing grain to grow in it, as well as grapes and greens, and olives and palm trees, and dense orchards, and fruits and pastures, all as means of substance for you and your animals. So in a snapshot from this Abasa, clearly Allah mentioned how He created food, how it will benefit the human being and also the animals. Either the fruits, like sprouts, or grow in as a grain, or grow as olives or palm trees or grapes, and so on. So if we as Muslim, we think deeply about this creation, we would find the Almighty Allah, and we would understand the greatness in the power of Allah, how Allah created food for the benefit of the humankind. But again, if we look at food itself, the functions of food through the Quran, I would like to share one surah, Surah Muhammad, ayah 15 or verse 15. Here it says, Allah described how the paradise looks like, with 4 rivers: fresh water, milk that never change in taste, rivers of wine, delicious to drink, and rivers of pure honey. This is the indication and describe of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how the heaven, how the paradise looks like. 4 rivers flow by that we can drink at any time we want. As you know, in this worldly, for milk, if we put outside, within 4-5 hours it will turn sour, it will turn bad. But in heaven, in the paradise, it will not go bad. And further, Allah described how the paradise looks like. It says here that they have all kinds of fruits, and also the forgiveness of Allah or the Lord. And the next verse, which is quite interesting, is that Allah also described in hell, where people will be given boiling water. As we can imagine, if one drinks boiling water, what will happen? The internal part will test, the internal part will be will be tearing, and no one could handle that, drinking or boiling water, because we know it will hurt ourselves badly, and it can kill us. So, but again, in this simple ayah, it gives the alternate form of food, where one as a reward and one as a torture. So, if we think carefully, a food can be a reward, can be something that we desire, and also in hell, where food is something that we desire, but it is a form of torture due to the sins that the person commits during their life in this world. So, food has been mentioned in Quran quite substantively. So basically, in the Quran, like the Surah Abasa, we just saw just now, it describes how the food is being originated, why or what it signifies, and what food are the allowable or prohibited, or basically the halal and the haram food, which inform Muslim identities and the Islamic theology, law, ethics, and aesthetics. Food is known for its functions as basic human needs and also to maintain good health of a human being. Muslims must follow the directives of only consuming halal food, God-given standard, and halal and haram food has been mentioned in the Quran and Hadith quite substantially. Okay. Now I would like to share the foods which has been mentioned in Quran, as we seen in earlier slides, where Surah Abasa, where food has been given as a divine blessing for human being, and also in the Al-Baqarah verse 22, where Allah said the provisions that God has set on earth, rains that provides the water to the earth, in which various fruits and as human provisions, and are indication of God's wisdom, reminding adherents that God is without equal, incomparably wise and generous. While in Al-Baqarah, the verse 35, and also Al-Araf, verse 19, where food makes its appearance in Jannah, in paradise, in which Adam and his wife are directed to enjoy the food from the plenteous garden wherever they find it, but not to approach a certain tree where they become tyrannical or wrongdoers. And also food as a reward in the paradise, and also as a torture in hell, which we discussed briefly just now. And also human are being tested by hunger, loss, or mega harvest, but those who respond with patience and assert that they are from God, to whom they will return, are divinely blessed. So these are the parts and parcels of how food has played in the Quran, either as a reward or either as torture, or even as part of to show the Almighty Allah, how He sets the provision for the human beings and also for the animals. Now, if we look at functions of food from a scientific point of view, basically we have three main functions of food. Number one is physiological functions, which we are looking into energy yielding food, meaning to say the carbohydrate, the fat, which we need this energy to do our daily work, either to walk, to run, as simple as even to move our hand. And number two, bodybuilding foods, for instance, like proteins. We need to grow our muscle. We need to grow, for healthy life. And three, protective and regulatory foods. What it means is basically the food supply the vitamins and the minerals so that the cells in our body can functional as normal. But again, so food is also serve as a social functions. We gather around food. Having a wonderful time. We talk to each other over food, as especially in Malaysia, where we gather around food. Between families and friends, and share a good time. psychological functions. Sometimes food has been, seen as a comfort food, especially like ice creams, where sometimes people have emotions, or they feel sad, they feel down, they look for up, for instance, like an ice cream just to cool them off, or sweets, or even popcorns, for instance. Now, one part of the food that has been mentioned quite substantively in the Quran is about halal food, or what I call as a God-given diet, the halal tayyibat. If we look at Al-Baqarah, verse 172, this is where Allah Subhanahu wa Taala gives the directive to to the believers, to the believers, eat from good things, eat from good things which Allah has been which have been provided for you, and give thanks to Allah if you truly worship Him alone. So what it says is that only eat halal and tayyib, or halal and wholesomeness food. Later on the slides, I will give you the definitions of wholesomeness. But for now, wholesomeness, what it means is that all good things about food, safe to eat, nutritious, and so on. So if we go to the next verse, which is 173, in the same surah, which is the Al-Baqarah. Here, Allah stated the food that has been forbidden to eat: carrion, blood, swine, and what is slaughtered in the name of any other than Allah. So basically, Allah has stated what are the foods which is being considered as haram. Clearly in this Al-Baqarah verse 173. But again, if we read further in this ayat, it has a safety net. Although we can't eat swine, and so on. But if we read further in this ayat, what does it say? But if someone is compelled by necessity, neither driven by desire, nor exceeding immediate need, they will not be sinful. Surely Allah is all forgiving, most merciful. What does it mean? What it means is that if there is a necessity, as simple as let's put a very very extreme example. Let's say there's nothing left in this world, and there's only pork, for instance. And to live, for you need to live. In order for you to continue to live, you need to eat the pork, because of if you don't eat, you will die. Or there is darura. In certain aspect, there's a darura. Then it is within this ayat, Allah gave the blessing, or Allah gives the right for the person to eat, just for him to survive. Because it says here, neither driven by desire nor exceeding immediate need. So it is not sinful. Allah is more forgiving and most merciful. So we talk about halal. Basically, halal is something that is permissible by Allah. Haram is non-permissible by Allah. Now let's go to the concept of tayyiban, because we saw in this surah where we would like halal and tayyiban in the surah Al-Baqarah verse 172. It says here halal and tayyiban. So if you look at what is tayyiban, basically when we talk about tayyiban, it's about a healthy food. It is about a nutritious food. It's about a wholesome food where we add value to human consumption. Either be vitamins, minerals, or any good bacteria, for instance, to give a good effect on gut, for instance. Quality, goodness in taste and whole value proposition, and it is safe, it is hygiene, where it is compliant to food safety regulations, for instance, like HACCP, Hazard Analysis Critical Control Point, GMP, GHP, and so on. So all these safety regulations actually they are derived from food safety to make sure that the food is safe for consumption, safe to eat. Or food poisoning, the food is not being poisoned. There's no intoxication. There's no poison, either coming from the bacteria or virus or toxicology. Comes from the material, toxic material. So Soyban covers this part of food, where again, not just safety and poisoning, but also foodborne diseases due to bacteria, especially bacteria, mold, and sometimes a virus. And also food adulteration. There should not be food adulteration when we talk about Soyban. For instance, like additional of coloring, just because we want to look more fresher. Then we add perhaps more chemicals. That is not right to do. Right. The third part is hygiene, or hygienic or safe, or the safety of food. What it means is that the part of Toyiban is looking into the safety of food. What it means is that safe to eat. There's no poison, there's no bacteria, there's no virus, there's no mold. Therefore, the person who eats this food, it is guaranteed that he or she is safe. They will not be, sick because of food poisoning. And we have safety regulations in the factory, in the making of food. For instance, like we have HACCP, Hazard Analysis Critical Control Point, to make sure that the food is being produced is safe to eat, or good manufacturing practices. Again, it is the same concept, to produce food which is hygiene, which is clean, which is safe to be eaten. Now, one more aspect about Toyibat is food adulteration. Why? Because if you imagine, food gone bad, or food has been kept 4 or 5 days and it is not fresh. Someone adds coloring, someone adds additives to make it look more fresh, to look more appealing, and it will be misleading to the consumers. This is not toyib. This is not toyiban. This is not wholesomeness. Therefore, halal and toyiban is helping out people, or being as a ruling out of this kind of factors, so that when people eat, they know that they will eat a safe, fresh, good, nutritious food. Now, one might ask, what is a haram food? I think Surah Al-Ma'idah, verse 3, Surah 3 or Ayat 3, is a very good answer. Here, Allah has said in the Quran, forbidden for you are carrion, blood, swine, slaughtered in the name of any other than Allah, what is killed by strangling, beating, or fall, or being got to death, what is partly eaten by predator unless you slaughter it, and what is sacrificed on altars. You are also forbidden to draw lots for decision. That is evil. And the next of the ayah is something to do with gambling. But again, the first part of this ayah is strictly say that swine or blood or carrion is forbidden. Now, one might ask why blood is forbidden. Now, through science we have proven that blood is a very good, what shall I use the word, is a good medium, is a good media, or a house, a simple word, for all the virus, for all the bacteria, to grow on and to eat, bloods where we know there's a lot of virus, there's a lot of bacteria which can harm our health. It is not tayyib, it is not halal. Because as we know, anything that is Allah, uh, you know, uh, 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 gives as halal or permissible, any food that is permissible, we know that is full of hikmah. Any food that is non-permissible or haram, meaning to say there's a hikmah or there's a benefit why as a human being we should left it out. And again, this is another verse, Surah Al-Am, verse 145, 145. Here, again, Allah has said, "Say, O Prophet, I do not find in what has been revealed to me anything forbidden to eat except carrion, running blood, swine, which is impure, or a sinful offering in the name of other than Allah. But if someone is compelled by necessity, neither driven by desire, nor exceeding immediate need, then surely your Lord is all forgiving and merciful." Again, although Allah has stated clearly what is halal, what is non-halal, but again, in this specific surah, Allah has mentioned, but if it's a necessity, meaning to say darura, then it is, it is okay, or it is, is permissible to eat a small portion for the for the needs, because it says no exceeding immediate need, and Allah is all forgiven, is all forgiving and most merciful. And another ayat, He has only forbidden you to eat carrion, blood, swine, and what is slaughtered in the name of any other than Allah, but of someone compelled by necessity, neither driven by desire nor exceeding immediate need, then surely Allah is all forgiving and merciful. Again, it repeats, that by necessity, then it is permissible. So, sometimes people ask, what is halal food? I think the Surah Al-Ma'idah, the verse 4 is a very good way to answer what is a halal food. Here, they ask you, "O Prophet, what is permissible for them to eat? Say what is good and lawful." So, when we talk about halal food, what is nice, what is good, what is lawful, that is halal. Because during this day, we talk a lot about what is haram, what is non-permissible food. Then when we talk about non-permissible food, the list will be long. But again, if you talk about permissible or halal food, then it will become much easier for us to understand. Actually, there is more food that we can eat rather the food that we cannot eat. And in the Quran, it is also mentioned about intoxicants. Here in Surah Nahl, ayat 67, it says here, "And from the fruits of palm trees and grapevines, you derive intoxicants as well as wholesome provision. Surely this is a sign for those who understand." Dear viewers, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to draw your attention here. In nature, grapes are halal. Palm trees, like dates, they are halal. But again, from halal food, they can turn into non-halal or forbidden or haram. This classic example would be grapes or dates, where if you ferment, you do the fermentations of grape or you do the fermentations of dates, you will have the byproduct, which is intoxicants. The level of alcohol is high, and if you consume it, it can turn into intoxicants or alcoholic beverages, because the alcoholic level is very high, and you can get intoxicants, and you can basically get drunk. So if we think further, if we think deeper, then we can see the Almighty Allah, how He created from one food that can be halal, and the same food, if it's wrongly done, if it's wrongly bit of process it, you can have a haram food. So, as a human being, we need to understand, how the food must be halal always. So we come to another slide, the next slide, where we would like to see what are the foods mentioned in the Quran. For instance, in the Quran mentioned about water, banana, figs, olives, honey, milk, grapes, dates, and so on. But again, due to the time restrictions, perhaps I will only review 2 or 3 food that has been mentioned in the Quran. Now, olives. Number one is olives. A lot of us, are very familiar with this surah, Watini wa Zaitun, by the fig and the olives. Now, if we ask those people who are experts in tafsir, I asked one of my colleague, which is who is expert in tafsir. So I asked, why does this verse started like a swear, like Allah swear by the figs and olives, like another surah, while us, time, for instance. So my friend, told me is that this is something that belong to the Allah secrets. You explore, and you will find the benefits, behind this. So I went and reading, and I went I did some homework about olives, and subhanallah, there's a lot of benefits, which I will share with you in a moment. But again, talking about olives, there are 6, at least, 6 places or 6 surah, which I know it's more, but again, just to give an example. For instance, like, the Suratin, An-Nur, Mu'minun, Ahnal, and Anam. So basically, these are where, olives has been mentioned in different parts and different functions in the Quran. And on hadith itself, there's, a lot of narratives. For instance, like, it was narrated by Umar that the Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam season your food with olive oil and anoint yourself with it, for it comes from a blessed tree. So olive itself, Rasulullah SAW mentioned it is a blessed tree. So in the Quran mentioned, in the Hadith has mentioned. So definitely, eating olives has a lot of benefits, as we will see in a moment. But again, in this slide, you can see about 4 hadith related to olives. Now, let's look in the composition of an olive. So olive, basically, the scientific name is Olea europea. So basically, in 100 grams of ripe and canned or canned olives, the calories is only 115. Most of it is water, which is about 80%. It's very high in fat, basically. But again, when we talk about fat, the high is mono unsaturated, and the olives contain about 11 or 50% fats, 74% of which is oleic acid, a type of mono unsaturated fatty acid. It is the main component of olive oil. Oleic acid is linked to several health benefits, including decreased inflammation and a reduced risk of heart diseases. And if you look at if you go to the market, you will always see first cold pressed olive oil. That is what you want to look up. If you want to consume a good bit of olive oil, you should look the one with first cold press. Now, in olives, as I mentioned much earlier, there's a lot of vitamins and minerals, which is good source of several vitamins and minerals, some of which are added during processing. And this fruit beneficial compounds include vitamin E, which is high-fat plant foods usually contain high amounts of powerful antioxidant. It has iron. Black olives are a good source of iron, which is important for the red blood cells to transport the oxygen. High in copper, high in calcium, and also sodium. Now, as far as carbohydrate and fiber, it comprises as 4 to 6% of olives in olives, making them a low carbohydrate fruit. And most of carbohydrate are fiber, and fiber itself make up 52 to 86% of the total carbohydrate content. The net digestible carbohydrate content is therefore very low. And however, olives are still a relatively poor source of fiber since 10 olives only provide about 1.5 grams fiber. But again, olive has high in and antioxidants. As you can see here, it has L-europene, which is abundant in fresh unripe olives, and it has linked to many health benefits. It has a hydroxyl tyrosol, it has tyrosol, oleanolic acid, and also quercetin. Now, all these antioxidants is important for our health, so that it is some of them will help to prevent heart diseases, some of them to prevent liver damage, regular blood fats, and also inflammations. So, ladies and gentlemen, antioxidant is very important, and definitely olives can serve we want. So what I mean by that is that uh, for instance, like people in Mediterranean, reports have shown that the incidence of heart diseases is very low among the Mediterranean when they look on on their diets. They found out that the Mediterranean people love to eat olives, and they concluded that one might say eating olives every day, a 1 teaspoon of olive oil could help to prevent heart diseases. Now, let's go to the next food which we mentioned in the Quran, which is dates. There's a lot of ayat Quran, or phrases mentioned about dates. And for instance, like with it he causes to grow for the crops, the olives, the date palms, grapes, and every kind of fruit. Very like indeed, this is evident proof and manifest sign of people who give thought. So food has been food has been given as an evidence by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to his powerness, to the existence of God. And if human beings think deeply, wisely, that how the food grow itself and how it gives the benefit to human being and also for the animal, as in a matter of argument, we can derive the understanding about there must be a superpower behind all this, which it shows, or it goes back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And for instance, like in hadith, on dates, there's quite a handful. The one of the most famous is Sa'ad bin Abu Waqqas radiallahu anhu narrated that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Who eats 7 dates of Medina or Ajwa dates every morning will not be affected by poison and magic on the day he eat dates, or he eat them." So this is one of the most famous hadith for dates, and inshallah, we could look at into the mechanism how by eating a dates can help to boost the immunity. I think that would be another nice research to do. And in fact, if we can, take in this first hadith, which intrigues me, how dates, eating 7 dates will not affect by poison and magic or black magic. What is the mechanism behind that? how we can scientifically proven or prove the minerals, the fibers, the vitamins in the ajwa dates could help to boost either the immune system or to boost something in our body that can block any poison, or in this hadith mentioned about black magic. That is something that I think quite nice if the science people and also the psycho-spiritual people could get along together and come out with a good research on this. Just to show you, there's a lot of, a lot of dates, the kinds and types. So there's ajwa, franca, siga, and so on. Right. In a nutshell, dates or Phoenix Destilifera, which has an excellent nutrition profile. They are high in fiber, and also they are high in disease-fighting antioxidants. For instance, like they have flavonoids, which are powerful antioxidants that may help inflammation, may help reduce inflammation, and have been studied for their potential to reduce risk of diabetes, Alzheimer's disease, and certain types of cancer. They also have carotenoids, which has been proven to promote heart health and may also reduce the risk of eye-related disorders, much as macular degeneration. And also they have phenolic acid, which is renowned for anti-inflammatory properties. Phenolic acid may help lower the risk of cancer and also heart diseases. It will improve the brain function, promote natural labor, excellent natural sweetener, and within the 100 grams of dates, you can have all those nutrients, calories, carbs, and so on. So from this, you can see, it gives you about 75 grams of carbohydrate, 7 grams of fiber, 2% of protein, 20% of potassium, 40% magnesium, 80% copper, 15% manganese, 5% of iron, and 12% of vitamin B6. Ladies and gentlemen, if we look at this table where we can see approximate composition of fresh and dried dates. Now, the one in which I've blocked in red is basically to show you the average amount. For instance, like moisture among the dates, you can see the highest is 50.4, which is the kasab dates, and you can see protein, fat, ash, carbohydrate, and so on. And we can see here that it has a high protein, it's about 1.5 gram per 100 gram, and it has high in carbohydrate, which is 54.9% per 100 grams. Basically, these are been written by researchers before this, and I just compiled and to see the differentiation. Now, this is a table looking into the fructose, glucose, and sucrose, where you can see that they have high in fructose and also glucose, where fructose is 19.4%, 94 gram per 100 gram, and also glucose 22.8% per 100. Fructose and glucose are the major sugars in most date varieties and also found almost in equal amounts. The sugar differences between fresh and dried dates could be related to the stage of maturation and also cultivation area with moisture reduction. Sugars in dates are the most important constituents as they provide a rich source of energy of humans. Glucose is readily absorbed during digestion and lead to rapid elevation of blood sugars. As fructose is twice as sweet as glucose, it induces a feeling of satiety and may also reduce the total calorie intake compared to fat-rich foods. Now, in this slide, we look into the minerals where dates were found to be a rich source of selenium, cuprum, potassium, and magnesium in the diet. The consumption of 100 grams of dates provides over 15% of the daily RDA of these minerals. Moderately concentrations of manganese, iron, phosphorus, and calcium per 100 gram of dates will provide 7% of the daily RDA. The high potassium and low sodium contents in dates are desirable for people suffering from hypertension. And in comparison with other dried fruits, plums, apricot, figs, raisins, and peaches, dates are regarded as good source of these minerals. Selenium is a coenzyme for the antioxidant enzyme glutathione peroxidase, which has a role in the protection of body tissues against oxidative stress, maintenance of defenses against infection, and the modulation of growth and development. Ladies and gentlemen, in this table, phenolics and antioxidants of fresh dried foods. Again, here we can see the comparison between the different kinds of dates. For instance, like we can also compare fresh dates and dried dates. You can see, we can have a higher phenolic compound on the dried dates, and also, we can look at into things like anthocyanins. But again, anthocyanins in this specific example, they are only exist in fresh dates as compared to those in dry dates. Right, vitamin content of dried dates. Here again, just to show you that dates are high in vitamins and minerals. Composition to common dried foods. Again, here it says, how dates are comparable to other dried dates, and you can see here they are, basically higher than other, but again, moisture has a higher, figs has a higher moisture content than this, but others, for instance, like sugars, carbohydrate, energy, fiber, and so on, our dates are slightly higher than the figs. Now, the last food that is that I'm going to discuss this afternoon is about honey. Now, honey has been it's been mentioned in Quran quite lengthy, but again, it has been mentioned, been used to describe how the paradise looks like. As we mentioned earlier, one of the 4 rivers flowing in the paradise is the river of the honey. So, and another surah, An-Nahl 68, 69, it says here, your Lord inspired the bee, saying, set up hives in the mountain and the trees and the tree trellises that people put up, then suck the juice of every kind of fruit and keep trading the way your Lord, which has been made easy. There comes forth from their bellies a drink varied in colors, wherein there is healing for men. Very there is a sign in this for those who reflect. So basically, ladies and gentlemen, when we talk about honey, another a complex food, but again, mentioned in the Quran, which has many benefits. So even in hadith, it's mentioned about this honey. Healing is in the 3 things: cupping, gulp of honey, or cauterization, breading with fire. But I forbid my followers to use the cauterization. What it means is that, in terms of healing, there's 3 things. One of the 3 things is to drink honey. And another hadith mentioned about the healing power of the honey, and also narrated Aisha radiallahu anhu, the Prophet used to like sweet edible things and honey. So as benefit, nutritionally, 1 tablespoon of honey contains 64 calories and 17 grams of sugar, including fructose, glucose, maltose, and sucrose. It contains virtually no fiber, fat, or protein. It also contains traces amounts under 1% of the RDI of several minerals and vitamins. High quality honey is rich in antioxidants. Some studies show that honey improves heart disease risk factors in people with diabetes. However, it also raises blood sugar levels, so it cannot consider as healthy for people with diabetes. The antioxidants in it can help lower blood sugar. Honey also helps improve cholesterol. It reduces total and bad LDL cholesterol, which signify raising good HDL cholesterol. Elevated triglycerides are risk factor for heart disease and type 2 diabetes. Several studies show that the honey can lower triglycerides level, especially when used as a sugar substitute. The antioxidants in honey have been linked to beneficial effects on heart health, including increased blood flow to the heart and reduced risk on blood clot formation. Honey promotes burn without and wound healing. Honey can help suppress cough in children. Now, as a conclusion, only Allah has the right to declare something is lawful or unlawful. I like to refer to these two surah where Allah clearly stated that the lawful and unlawful of food is only Allah's right, and nobody has the right to say this is lawful, that is unlawful. So, for instance, in Surah An-Nahl, verse 116, do not falsely declare with your own tongues, this is lawful, that is unlawful. Basically, this is haram, this is halal, and vice versa. Only fabricating lies against Allah. Indeed, those who fabricated lies against Allah will never succeed. With that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you, terima kasih, shukran for listening to my talk. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.